On November 19, 2021, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced that the government of India would repeal three controversial farm laws. In that particular national address, one can easily make out from the speech of the Prime Minister, it appears to be that the only reason why the government is taking back all these farm laws, even after repeated round of talks with the leaders of farmers, as the government had failed to make a certain section of farmers understand the potential benefits these farm laws have. So, as an act of goodwill towards Indian farmers as a whole, the government is taking back these laws altogether. The supporter of these reforms seems to be very unhappy to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi backing down so easily in the face of resistance. They also often claim that these were not just ordinary laws, but necessary reforms meant to liberate farmers, and even compared them with the historic economic liberalization of 1991. Nobody might disagree from the fact that these farm laws from almost a year did become much of a polarizing issue. Ever since the farmers from a certain states started protesting against the government and demanded nothing short of a total repeal of all these laws. There might be some other motivations, as suggested by many, that might have compelled the government to repeal these laws, like upcoming assembly elections in certain states or fear of the government that these protests may create a crucial law and order situation in the near future. But whatever the real reasons might be there behind taking the decision, I want to discuss any of that in this video. That's not the purpose here. This video is about something more crucial. That is, as a citizen of a modern democracy, which is India, we need to ask ourselves a crucial question. That is, what kind of approach we want when it comes to making laws. An authoritative, centralized, top-down approach to impose laws, or more decentralized, participatory, bottom-up approach to make laws. I will explain why these laws were meant to be repealed in the first place, given how the current government opted for a rigorous top-to-down imposition of these laws. As how a prominent Indian journalist, Shekhar Gupta, put it regarding farm laws, that these laws were dead well before they arrived. Subsequently, I will try to explain this position further, but for now, in the case, we want to know my position in simple words. According to my opinion, the government of India has taken a wise and responsible decision by taking these controversial laws back. A mature step which will grow the confidence of people in the government for the future. If you really want to know why I think so and what this can achieve in the longer run, you have to stick around for the remaining video. But before I discuss it any further, I would like to go really quick through what these farm laws were all about and why the protest erupted against them in the first place. If you already know that, you can very well skip this section using the time stamped below in the description box in order to jump into the crux of the discussion. Nonetheless, let's continue. The three farm laws, also officially known as Indian Agriculture Act 2020. The first act was known as Farmers Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Act 2020. This act was meant to allow the farmers to sell their produce or products outside of the previously mandated APMC district mandis. The farmer, according to this act, can sell their produce in any market, hence promoting barrier-free intra-state as well as interstate trade of agricultural goods. Surely this act was meant to break the monopoly of APMC mandi, who many people believed became inefficient. According to them, licensed commission agents cartelize among themselves and fix commodity prices and take the advantage of farmers' compulsion to sell at those mandated mandi areas. Therefore, farmers are not able to sell their products at competitive prices, ultimately setting back farmers economically. The same act also provides for the online buying and selling of the agricultural goods using digital platforms through electronic devices and through the internet. The second act, that was known as the Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act 2020. This act mainly provided a legal framework that allowed farmers to come in a written contract with any private player who is involved in some kind of agriculture processing business in order to sell their harvest at the mutually agreed price, quantity and also quality. All of that would be clearly mentioned in the contract, and that would be agreed upon by the farmer and the buyer well before the production or rearing of the farmer's yield. The Act also mentioned the mechanism according to which the two parties could resolve disputes that may arise due to some objections regarding meeting the terms and conditions of the contract. The third bill, that was known as Essential Commodities Amendment Act 2020. This act was least controversial act among all of them. Basically, this act aimed to restrict the government power to arbitrarily impose stock limits on selected agricultural commodities. Under this act, only under extraordinary circumstances the government would then become eligible to put the limits of hoarding on stockpiling on essential commodities. Normally, the government arbitrarily issues stocking guidelines, even if there is a small increase in the price of essential commodity, to avoid any hoarding. Many believed that this amendment was necessary to build an efficient supply chain network in the agriculture sector, as it would have incentivized investment in the cold storage chains throughout the country. The optimism regarding these bills was so high among the members of the government that the Prime Minister even remarked at the passing of these bills as a historic moment in Indian agriculture. In his own words, and I quote, "For decades, the Indian farmers was bound by various constraints and bullied by middlemen. The bills passed by Parliament liberate farmers from such adversities. These bills will add impetus to the effort to double income of farmers and ensure greater prosperity for them." All these three bills were presented, debated and approved by both houses of Parliament and finally signed by the President of India. All that happened within a period of just 2 weeks. Ever since the acts were introduced in the Parliament, the farmers' unions, mainly belong to the state of Punjab and Haryana, staged protests. In some places, the protest became uncontrollable and resulted in police retaliation. Concerned with the worsening law and order situation and given the government's handling of the protests, the Supreme Court in early January 2021 decided to suspend these farm laws and decided to form a committee to address farmers' grievances and requested the farmer unions to cooperate. Most of the reports claim that till now between 600 to 700 farmers lost their lives during the protests, mainly because of the harsh weather conditions they were subjected to in the places where they were protesting. From the very beginning, most of the representatives of the farmer unions wanted nothing else but only an unconditional repealing of all these three laws. The main point of criticism made by the most farmers' leaders were as follows. First, by allowing selling the produce outside the domain of APMC Mandi, these acts will eventually result in the abolition of the APMC Mandi system itself. And subsequently, with that, MSP, which is minimum support price coverage, would also be abolished. Second, by preventing states to impose any kind of levy or fees for the trade happening in the markets outside the APMC, it will further disincentivize farmers to sell in the APMC mandis, thus further weaken the APMC mandi system. Third, allowing the private sector to directly deal or come in contract with farmers will open the possibility of exploitation of farmers in the hands of the big corporations. Last but not the least point of criticism was the reforms in the agriculture is mainly a subject of state governments. So the union government is not eligible for making such kind of laws which affect Indian agriculture. Despite the main criticisms against the bills, the government of India made it categorically clear that these laws didn't mean abolishing either APMC or MSP. Technically speaking, it's true because neither of any acts explicitly talks about such a thing. They just seemed to provide a framework where a parallel system of trading can be built alongside the currently existing APMC Mandi system. In my opinion, these acts were just about providing various options to farmers without taking anything from them. And not just me, but various other experts and economists believed that the Indian agriculture sector for so many decades needed the kind of reforms these acts promised to deliver, to transform Indian agriculture and also to make average Indian farmer more prosperous. There might be some problems here and there in these acts, but overall, these acts were promising to the Indian agriculture. Despite all of that, why I think that the government had taken a wise decision in taking back these farm laws? The answer doesn't lie in the content of the laws, but the very method or the approach used to impose these reforms. See, any reform taken with respect to Indian agriculture will directly affect at least 60% of the Indian population. Not only that, agriculture profession in many parts of the world, especially in India, always had been held in high regards. Agricultural practices and ways of life become fossilized over many generations and become less prone to change. Also, many Indians often attribute a sense of sacredness to the profession, traditionally calling farmers as Anyadata. Many farmers themselves do not even explicitly claim their profession as some sort of trade or business. Despite all the sensitivities attached to the very profession, which the bills promise to reform, it seems to be insensitive on the part of the government who introduced these bills in the form of ordinances in June 2020. As some might know, technically an ordinance is equivalent to an act, but it acts as a temporary law introduced by the President of India when the Parliament is not in session, until the Parliament meets and rectifies these ordinances. However, these ordinances were later cleared by both houses of Parliament in September 2020, but the ordinance route was questioned by many. As what would be the hurry, the government decided to pass these laws in the form of ordinances, completely bypassing any opposition surrounding it. Not just that, even the way these bills were presented, debated and passed in the Parliament was questioned by many. Many complained the level of insincerity at which these farm laws were discussed. And in all of that, the government failed to persuade the very stakeholders whose lives would get most affected by the reforms that these laws intended to bring, which are the farmers. Without trying to build consensus within the farmers' community at the ground level and convincing them, the manner in which these bills were pushed in the Parliament by the government can be seen as rather condescending. That is, if the ruler is convinced that certain law is beneficial for the masses, there is no need to convince the masses of the same, because of the mentality that the rulers always know what is best for the masses. My point is, irrespective of the content of the bill, that is, how advantageous it might be for the people in general, objectively speaking, the manner in which any bill turns into a law also matters. As a famous saying goes, ends don't justify the means. As many believe that a democracy nature should be where a government is of the people, by the people and for the people, taking that into the consideration, every policy should be framed by taking the people in confidence, whom the policy would most affect. Thus, every law passed by the Parliament must reflect the willingness of the people it would most affect, not just the willingness of the ruling government. Because I don't believe parliamentary majority is everything, especially when you are bringing such a crucial and impactful reform. You should also persuade the people on the ground for whom the reform is brought in the first place. The second issue that I see is that given the diverse climatic geographical conditions of India, agriculture is made primarily a state subject, with little power of lawmaking is given to the union. In my opinion, the government should have taken all the states on boards, respecting the very federal nature of Indian polity. They must have persuaded the government of each state and must have built a consensus among them before taking these bills to the Parliament. These were the main criticism, according to me, against the very approach that had taken to reform such a vast, sensitive and diverse sector which is agriculture. Nonetheless, taking back these farm laws by the government should be welcomed, because history is a witness to it that there is a tendency in governments across the party lines of top-down imposition of laws, with little regard for the consent and opinions of the people in the ground, for whom these laws meant to be implemented in the first place. The rolling back of these laws by Modi government will send a positive message that state, especially the ruling government, really cares about the consensus building at the ground level. It just does not push the laws in a very patronizing manner without respecting the diversity of the opinions of its people. So, unlike the supporters of the very idea who propose that we need more dictatorship and less democracy to push such kind of reforms, in the contrary, what we need is more consensus building, more involvement of state governments, and persuasion of all the necessary stakeholders, especially those who would get most affected by the laws. As I believe the government is there to represent the will of the people, and it doesn't matter how much any reform is beneficial for the people from an academic standpoint, but if it lacks the will and the confidence amongst the common masses, the government should refrain itself from imposing it and should adopt an approach of persuasion and consensus building. After going through all of that, what should be the future course of action? I believe that the decision of reforming Indian agriculture, especially the trade and commerce within it, should be left to individual states, as it should have been the case. Just as the state of Bihar abolished the APMC Act in 2006 and ended the mandi system there, and other states too allowed contract farming to varying degrees. Similarly, the state should take the call on how much they want the present system to get reformed. And if the farmers of Punjab and Haryana want the APMC monopoly should remain in place, they should have that freedom. Now tell me, viewers, what do you think about all of that? Do you really think government had taken a wise decision by taking these farm laws back? According to you, how these reforms should have been implemented? Whether a top-down or bottom-up approach is more suitable for these kind of reforms? Tell me everything you want to tell in the comment section below. We will soon meet again. Until then, take care of yourself. Thank you. Goodbye and namaste.